How's it going, legends? Today I want to talk about string gauges. Now I've been getting some comments about what is the right string gauge to be using. Now there are different factors we need to consider when we're thinking about different string gauges. I've lots of different types. I like Ernie Ball. You can also get brands like Stringjoy, which you can tailor make the sets, change the gauges. Now, the lighter the number or the smaller the number, the lighter the string is, the easier it is to push down. The bigger the number, the harder it is to push down. Also depending on the tuning, because it's always going to be relative to what tuning you're in. So if we take the Ernie Ball 9 to 42s in E standard, that's your typical or your stock standard that most manufacturers would ship with. Then you go 9 to 46 E flat, feels the same as a 9 to 42. Same if we take these 10 to 48s in D standard, probably a bit looser than a 942, but still cool. And then we've got a 10 to 52. I got that for C standard. Now all of these are fairly light and loose feeling because I want to be able to do bends. I don't want to have to fight the strings too hard to do the bends. I don't want my hands fatiguing, but there's a lot of other factors you got to think about. Now, obviously down tuning is a factor for string gauges and whether or not you're going to have a heavier gauge. You also got to think about too the strength in your hands. When you're pushing down or you're squeezing the string down, someone with really strong hands is going to push down really hard, and when they push down really hard, the strings will go out of tune. So someone who has really strong hands would want a heavier gauge to compensate for how strong they are. And you've got to figure out who you are, because there's not just like one size fits all. Go, if I say just use this because this is the correct way and that's what I think, then someone else is different to me. And a lot of this is going to be trial and error, where you just have to try strings, see what you like the feel of. Another factor would be too, how hard do you pick? Now some people have a really heavy picking hand, and the more they really dig in, the string will move around a lot. When if you were to use like a really light gauge like I do and have a heavy picking hand, the string just sort of moves around and just messes you up. So some people have like really heavy 12 to like 64 or something, in freaking E flat, or I've heard like crazy things in like E standard, but this all depends on the individual. Now another factor, if you are playing live and you've got a lot of adrenaline and people play live a lot, say you're very strong and you're playing live with the adrenaline, guess what? You're going to squish even harder. You're going to be really fired up. And some people just want to play in that moment where they're really amped up, and that's when they'd want the heavier gauge strings. So with me saying all of this is why there is not ever one size fits all when it comes to guitars, how you set them up. Action, we can start looking at that. Some people want a very low action, but then that's going to introduce some string buzz. If you're someone who has really thick strings and hits the strings really hard, then action is going to be a bit higher. Like jazz players will play a lot higher than a lot of super shred plays, because if you're playing with a clean tone and the action's really low and you're getting a little bit of buzzing every now and then you want a really clean sound. So there's so many different factors, and it's not a one size fits all. So anyone who tries to just say, yep, this is the standard, this is what's right, and this is the way you should do it, well, I think they're just trying to make out like they know a lot, or just trust me because I know, and I just want to build a reputation that I know more than you, so follow me type of deal, which it isn't like that. You have to really experience the strings for yourself, the tension, how it feels. Like some people will have 7 to 36 in E standard. That's like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. I know Yngwie Malmsteen uses 8 gauge strings. So once again, you've just got to look at what you're trying to do, the feel you're going for, all of these different factors are going to come into making a decision about what string gauge is right for you. And there's really no way around it except buying different packs, putting them on your guitar. Setting up guitars too is another factor. And if you're not confident in that, then I can understand it's a real pain if every time you want to try a different gauge, you've got to take it to a guitar shop to get restrung so they can reset the neck. Because basically, the heavier the string, it's going to pull on the neck with more tension. So you have to tighten your truss rod to counteract that force. And that's all that's happening. So if you went from a 9 to 42 in E standard and put, say, a 10 to 52 in E standard, that's going to be a lot more tension. It's going to pull up on your neck, and then you're just going to have to tighten the neck to bring it back down. And it'll actually get like a bow in it. And when you've been playing for a long time or you've been more confident, I set up all my own guitars, I adjust my necks, I do all that sort of stuff. But I can understand if you're not confident and you're hesitant, it's definitely going to be better to take it to someone who knows what they're doing, because you could easily damage your neck. So that's another thing you got to think about. I wouldn't go jumping in adjusting necks if you don't have experience with doing that. But like anything, you just got to jump in sometimes and have a go. And that's totally up to you. And I'll leave that up to your own discretion. So there's some of my thoughts on string gauges. I hope the information's been helpful. If you're liking the content so far, I'd appreciate a sub, a like, yeah, all the YouTube type of things. So thank you for watching. Keep smashing out those riffs. I'll see you in the next one. Catch us later.